The components of the Korean language in this article. We will look at the sentence components of Korean. This article first reveals that it has organized a lecture by Jang Yeonju, a teacher at Korea University, and General Korean Grammar 1, written by the former Main Hall, published by Jip Monday. Let's get started. Sentence components. Sentence components are the elements that make up a sentence divided by grammatical functions. The grammatical function here is what the element is doing with what grammar relationship it has with other elements in that sentence. For example, subject is a word that becomes the subject of the action or state represented by the predicate represents. An object is an object of action in a sentence in which a verb is written. A predicate is a word that describes the movement, state, and nature of the subject in a sentence. Analyzing sentence components means that when a sentence is given, you think about it by dividing it into subject, object, and descriptive words. There are morphological, syntactic, and semantic criteria when checking sentence components. The morphological criterion is to weigh it with a combination of patterns forms such as survey. Nouns phrases with a subject, are candidates for subject based on morphological criteria. The syntactic standard is to weigh it with a grammatical relationship with other words. For example, when the predicate ending psi is realized, it analyzes what is responsive to psi and sees the ingredient as the subject. Finally, the semantic criterion is to distinguish the semantic content of the sentence component, and whether the component is an agent is considered. However, these three criteria do not always work absolutely. Morphological standards alone, for example, are not perfect. In Korean, the noun phrase tends to be the subject when the case is attached. However, problems can arise if you judge the noun phrase to be the subject only with the pattern form attached. Let's look at the next example sentence. Jin became a doctor. In the example above, in the entire sentence, it's appropriate to see the subject as Jinga. In the case of Dr.ga, the shape with iga is the same subject, but it is not the subject as a sentence component or, conversely, there are cases where I is not attached and is given. This is an example sentence. In the sentence below, the subject is clearly, in my school, our school held a contest. It is better to understand that the contents summarized in this article are typical characteristics of Korean sentence components, rather than absolute criteria for analyzing sentence components. Types of sentence components. There are three main types of Korean sentence components. These are the main components that are essential for a sentence to be established. The subsidiary components that are not essential, but mainly functioning to modify the main components. And the independent components that are independent with
문장의 기본 골격 무엇이누가 어찌하다